And welcome back to Sunday Live right here at Citizen Television.
Now, Thursday, the 27th of August, marks exactly a decade since the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya. The passage of the new constitution ranks second in Kenya's major achievements, upstaged only by the attainment of independence in 1963. A decade on, however, the document that many thought would herald a new dawn and be the panacea to Kenya's cocktail of problems has failed due to what many have termed as a lack of goodwill, implementation, and flaws in the document itself.
Now, tonight, Citizen TV kicks off a series to review the Constitution 10 years on. We call it KATIBA at 10. Now, Victoria and I will leave you at this point, but we'll leave you in the very good hands of our very own Trevor Ombija, who sat down with ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi, who was also part of the Parliamentary Select Committee on the Constitution back in 2010. Now, Trevor started by asking Mudavadi, what are the hits and misses of the current Constitution? We'll see you next week.
Have a good night.
Enjoy the interview.
The biggest gain continues to remain devolution, in my view. I say devolution has been a big gain because counties like Mandera had never seen tarmac. But through the devolved system, they have been able to tarmac some sections of their road. And they've taken a lot of pride in this. There are some counties that have made very good progress in different sectors, maybe health related, maybe water provision and so forth, because of devolution, because resources can be dedicated systematically to that area. So I think that remains a very good thing. And whatever we do, we must ensure that we continue to consolidate devolution, because it's a big plus for the people of Kenya. We should not go back on it. We have also seen that there have been completion of institutions, like you have the Judicial Service Commission. Forget the challenges that it may be going through now, but the fact is that there is a commission. We have seen the Salary Review Commission, all these kind of institutions that have kind of brought some measure of independence, as Envy said, within the constitutional arrangement. As to whether they are functioning well will be a different matter, which may be a topic of debate elsewhere. But the fact is that we have seen some positives in some of those areas. But we might now come to the other side of it. There have been big misses. Perhaps the most glaring is the fact that we have never been able to achieve the gender rule. In spite of several attempts, in spite of even what was ruled through the Supreme Court to make sure that this law is enforced. That has not been achieved. And then lately, we are now beginning to see very serious and negative energy and competition between some of the institutions that are supposed to function to complement each other, but not to work against each other. We are seeing a lot of tension between the executive and the judiciary. We are seeing a lot of tension between the executive and Parliament. And the classic example is what has happened just a few days ago on this revenue sharing debate, where we have seen acrimonious interaction between the executive and the Senate. This should not be happening in the context of our new constitution.
And you've been in leadership in both the parliament before the constitution and the new one now. Has there been any change? Because you've even spoken about devolution as well. Has the central government behaved in the right manner? Have they devolved enough funds to those the devolved units that you're talking about?
I think there's still, we had what you would call a centralized system for a very long time. All right, and they say old habits die hard. So there are still a lot of players in the national government who have not yet internalized the devolution. And this is seen a lot in terms of the resource allocation. Let me just try and break it down. There's been a stalemate in the Senate, and the debate is around 316 billion Kenya shillings.
Yeah.
But Yatani's budget is a 3 trillion budget. So the stalemate that we are seeing is just for about a tenth of the entire nation's budget. The other 90 to 85% is still with the national government. That's the contradiction. Can you imagine people are almost punching each other for just a tenth of the 3 trillion budget? We have not yet started interrogating seriously the 85%.
Yeah.
Now, what do I say here? What do we point out here? We point out a few things. The Constitution said certain functions must be devolved. Agriculture must be devolved. Health must be devolved. In fact, there's a schedule at the end of the Constitution. There's a schedule attached that which are devolved functions and which ones remain national. Now, can you imagine that health is a devolved function? But the budget of the Ministry of Health at the national level continues to grow, while that of the county governments is starved.
Yeah.
So these are fundamental questions. That means there are still some people at the national level who are not letting go. They are not ready to let go. And that is why resources continue to be concentrated at the national against the provisions of the Constitution.
Yeah. And they're not letting go. Why is that? Is it because they're looking to enrich themselves? Do you read some level of malice?
Procurement is big business.
Yeah.
Procurement is big business. So you when you look at the institutions, let's look at institutions like KERA. Where are they domiciled at the end of the day? This is the Kenya Rural Roads Authority. Yeah. Where is KENHA domiciled? KENHA is the Kenya Highways. And then where is KURA domiciled? KURA is the Kenya Urban Roads Authority. So all the fundamental road-making agencies still remain national agencies. So in effect, the larger procurement is still at the center. Now you can look at the health sector, and you can look at so many other sectors systematically, and you'll find that though we have a constitution that provides for devolution, the will, the political will for those at the national level to let go so that more and more responsibilities are given to the counties, all right? Because as you release functions to the counties, you must release the commensurate funding. That is what the Constitution envisaged. But we are now seeing a situation where people are even bordering on the reversal of some of these functions.
What would it take to achieve what you envisioned in the Constitution? Is it a change of leadership or a change of mindset?
It is important that there is commitment to implement the Constitution. And my take is that there is a residual bureaucratic fulcrum in the national government that is still reluctant. They want to continue wielding power. And you wield power by holding on to the resources.
Let's talk about Parliament. As it stands, can you confidently say that it is an independent arm of the government?
I think lately, no. Lately, the independence of Parliament has been challenged.
Isn't this the same as before, even the Constitution? Because there was still overbearing of the party leader.
You see, what we have seen now is, let me just take you to the debate on revenue allocation. Frankly speaking, the Senate, Article 1 of the Constitution says that the power of the people shall be exercised through their representation. It's part of the sovereign responsibility. Everything about our Constitution hinges on that Article 1 of the Constitution. Senators are elected directly by the people to go there. So when they are debating the issue of revenue allocation, they are supposed to articulate a position that is in the interests of the people that they have elected them. They are not where in the statutes of this country, where in the statutes of the CRA, Commission for Revenue Allocation, is it written that revenue to the counties shall be allocated and shared in accordance with the party position? It does not exist. So it is fallacious when they say that the Senate and people are being expected to vote in accordance with the party position. You can only vote through a rational process as provided by the law and then weighted in terms of population, in terms of geographical spread, and so forth, the parameters that are recognized within the framework of the Constitution. Because in all these parties, they have leadership, they have senators from across the board. Senators who belong to these parties but were falling in the cadre of where they might lose revenue. So what becomes a party position? So revenue sharing cannot be about grandstanding. Revenue sharing cannot be about political party positions. Revenue sharing must be about fairness and equity for the people of Kenya.
So from Parliament, let's go to the executive. Does the presidency still have too much power in the current constitution, in as much as there were attempts to limit it in the new constitution?
I think it's Parliament. The other side of it, the more recent one, is the constitution also provides for the majority and the minority. What has happened? Me, I'm from the opposition. I sit here and I feel that we have let down the country. Because the opposition, by and large in Parliament today, does not know whether they are supposed to sit on the minority side or on the majority side. You are trying to have the best of both worlds. I don't think that is what the Constitution envisaged. It envisaged a scenario where there are proper checks and balances. Government cannot oversight itself. That is why positions of pick and pack, the watchdog committees, are always the preserve of the opposition. But if the opposition is flirting with the government, then we have lost it. And therefore, we are not living up to the spirit and word of the Constitution.
Are you no longer part of the opposition now?
I am the last person standing in terms of opposition.
So they are not part of you?
I am the one who speaks to some of these issues. I am the one who speaks to the concerns that are emerging. And I've constantly said we cannot have it both ways.
You had a pact with the likes of Raila Odinga. Do you now believe that he's headed in the wrong direction?
That is for him to speak. Right?
From where you stand,
I
because
will
you say
not.
you're the
I will
only one
not.
in the
I will not
opposition.
speak for him, and I will not want him to be our topic. I am talking about what I see as the role of the opposition. We came in as NASA.
Yeah.
We had millions of people following us. Our dream and their dream was embedded in NASA. Good governance, rule of law, constitutionalism, sound economy, an economy that works for all. These were things that we built around NASA. The need to fight graft. These were the things we sold, the position we sold to the people. But right now, without blinking,
Yeah.
I can tell you a lot of the followers of NASA are very upset with us.
So the Constitution envisioned a presidency where the president and his deputy effectively work together as one unit for the good of the people. We now have a situation where they no longer see eye to eye. And there's even allegations of deep state. Do you know of this deep state? You've been around this political field for a while.
Well, I wish I could have an opportunity to meet both President Uhuru and Ruto in the same room and ask them, do you guys see eye to eye or not? That is what I would like to see. And then maybe we can get a very concrete answer from that position.
But judging from the divergent views that you've seen.
But right now,
Yes.
of course, people get worried that there's a lot of contradiction that seems to emerge from the ruling party. And that contradiction has implications in the efficiency of the government. So it is up to them to sort it out. Yeah. That is now their crisis. They have to sort it out themselves.
Yeah. But what comes to your mind when you hear of deep state allegations?
I don't want to go into many theories of whether deep state exists or does not exist. The more you perpetuate an agenda of deep state, the more you are planting a seed that Kenya shall never have free and fair elections. This debate is actually planting that seed.
Yeah.
So that you are perpetuating a narrative where when you, Trevor, win an election next time, they will say he never won, but he won because there was something called the deep state. So the more we propagate this narrative, the more we are preparing Kenyans to believe that elections in Kenya are permanently rigged and shall be permanently rigged and shall be forever rigged.
But you were part of the team that contested the presidential election.
Yes.
Did you believe at that point that it
We
was
went to
rigged?
the election, and I believe that we are going to have the elections in 2022 because we want to entrench democracy in this country.
So if you believe it was rigged then in 2017, are you sure now that...
But if you feel that there is a flaw in the election, there is a process, there is a window of the Supreme Court. If it is a presidential election, and if it is not the presidential election, you have the court system to deal with it. All right. But if we propagate that there is always a deep state, what you are telling me is that Musalia, forget your election, forget participating in the election, because whether you are in it or not, you will never win. So what are we entrenching by propagating that argument? I think it's an argument that Kenyans need to actually defeat so that our institution works and our democracy works.
Are you still running for president in 2022?
Yes.
Are you sure that the institutions have been strengthened enough, like the IBC, for example?
Now, that becomes a different topic, all right? We work towards improving the institutions, whether it is IBC or any other institution. Right now, the one that is supposed to manage and midwife the process of people's choices is the IEBC. All right? We have seen flaws. We have seen that even from the ruling of the Supreme Court, not much has been done, at least openly, unless they are doing it secretly, but nothing has been done openly or overtly. 2, make it clear that corrective measures have been put in the IEBC. What we see are lamentations of lack of resources, underfunding, and so forth, coming out from the institution of the IEBC. But constitutionally, it remains the body that is supposed to do that. So as we move towards 2022, the debate can be, can we improve on it? And that would be a valid debate. All right? But I think, and I'm coming back to this, let us not create a narrative that seems to undermine democracy.
We're taking a quick break here on Citizen TV. Keep your views coming, and Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya will sample some of them during this broadcast. We'll be back in just a bit. All right, thank you for staying with Citizen TV. Keep your views coming. We'll sample them during this broadcast as well at Citizen TV Kenya. Trevor Mbija. We're still with Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the NC party leader, reviewing KATIBA at 10. So you were part of the team that crafted the constitution, and you're still running for president as well in 2022. What are some of the lessons you've drawn from the situation between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy when it comes to choosing running mates?
That is a bridge that I'll cross when I get there. But what is important is that you must develop a situation where your ideological focus has a lot of common ground.
Yeah.
That is very important. Because if we have extremely divergent positions on what you would call critical policy areas, it might be very difficult to work together. So it is important that during such a decision-making process, one gives a lot of time to understand the individual that you may want to team up with for the election.
Okay. Is there a possibility that you will work with the Deputy President, William Ruto, in 2022?
He wants to be a competitor. He wants to run for the presidency. I want to run for the presidency. The Constitution is very clear, all right? Let's put it very clearly. The Constitution is very clear. When I am seeking to be president, I will look for my running mate. If Raila is seeking to be president, he'll look for his running mate. If Ruto is seeking, he'll look for his running mate.
But are you willing to work with any of those people you've mentioned?
Now, look at the Constitution and look at it clearly. Can Ruto be a running mate the third time, constitutionally?
That would make you the running mate.
And what have I answered you? 0. No, I'm not going to be his running mate. And I'm not going to be Raila's running mate. And I'm not going to be anybody's running mate. I am going for the seat.
What if Raila wants to be your running mate?
It is my decision. Wouldn't it be?
In hindsight, is the judiciary truly independent? Because we've seen that they've given some orders that have simply just been ignored. Is this what the Constitution envisioned, and how do we ensure that they regain their stature?
Yeah, that I would simply call, when you ignore court orders, that is simply impunity. all right? And it is something that we need to root out of our system. Court orders are the civilized way of dealing with matters that require arbitration. If we don't respect the courts and the orders they produce, the next thing, everybody will be carrying a panga in their hand. If it is a land dispute, you slash each other. If it is a commercial dispute, you slash each other. We can't go that way. And we should never allow that to take root. Now, let me just say, where do we see the challenge between the executive and the judiciary? I think we need to see more goodwill and more fidelity to the Constitution. As we speak, this is an independent institution, the judiciary. They were supposed to have their own fund, their own right to the consolidated fund. This has been dragging. They are still largely dependent on the Treasury. Parliament has a complement of about 1,500 people, including the legislators. Right? Parliament sits 3 days in a week, apart from committees, when committees are functioning. But they get 40 billion. Judiciary gets about 20 billion. The entire judicial service system in the country has about 7,000 employees. They sit 5 days in a week. When there's an emergency, the judge will be called to order on a Saturday to make a determination. Now, you allocate 40, you have allocated 20. You tell me now, what happens to that institution, which in law is also supposed to have a direct charge, so that it has its own fund. Constitutionally, we have not set up that fund.
Are there mistakes?
Yes. Well, no constitution is perfect. No constitution is perfect. But let us not blame the document. I think we should blame the implementers of this constitution.
Okay.
Are we implementing the Constitution to the letter? That's the question.
Yeah. So in your view, is it time to amend it? And I know you bring up the issue of implementation, but there's also clamor to amend it. Is it time to amend the Constitution?
It's really debatable. It's debatable because one of the things that I spoke earlier to in a different forum, but I did highlight a few things, that don't you find it odd or amusing or interesting or peculiar for that matter, that the clamor to amend the Constitution always falls within the cycle of a transition? So the fundamental question then comes, if it is always coinciding with the transition, then are the amendments properly thought out? Or are they amendments because it's a transition? Why don't these amendments come at the beginning of somebody's term? If I'm elected Musalia Mudavadi and there are constitutional amendments that are critical, why don't I bring them early in my term?
So now that we have just about 2 years into the election, you still haven't given me a straight answer whether it's the right time to amend the Constitution or not, and what should be amended.
No, that becomes a different matter. Yeah, but if you are to ask me right now, I'll tell you, Trevor, the country is reeling from the huge damage caused by COVID. Huge, huge, huge. We are reeling from a situation where the international community is also suffering from the impact of COVID, so that even the international friends that normally stand with Kenya will have a lot of difficulty being supportive to us.
And now they're thinking of withdrawing 400 billion in support because of corruption.
That is just one side of it, but I'm just talking holistically.
Yeah.
So we must, as a nation, make sure that our priorities are right. Should we be thinking about amending the Constitution or how we are going to create jobs for the thousands who have been laid off and continue to be laid off because companies are shutting? What should we be thinking of? Is the timing right? I mean, the US is having an election now because it's a constitutional deadline.
Yeah.
Tanzania is having the election because it's a constitutional deadline. You tell me right now, when is our constitutional deadline for an election? It's 2022. It's not 2020. President Uhuru's term is not ending in 2020. It would end in 2022. So between now and then, where is the crisis? Lack of medicine? The stolen medicine? The young men and women who have lost jobs? KRA has just reported it couldn't meet its target. Where are our priorities? Why are we making Kenyans believe that amending the Constitution is going to be the alpha and omega in our current situation?
Is it not?
It is not. I think what is critical is faithful implementation of the Constitution now. Then focus on dealing with the economy. And I've said the agenda must be agenda number 1, economy. Agenda number 2, economy. And agenda number 3, economy. This is where we must focus. All these other things will come into place. If you're forcing people about the debate all the time around the Constitution, and they're hungry, and they're losing jobs, they don't have medicine in their hospitals, they don't have clean water, and we keep on talking about this.
Do you raise these issues with the president? What is your relationship with the president, by the way?
He's my president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not friends, nothing?
We are friends, but he's my president.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you raise these issues with
Even
him?
if I do raise them, does it mean that I should not talk to them, to the Kenyan people?
What does he say when you raise it to him?
No, that becomes a different matter. But I can tell you,
Yeah.
the conversations around the issues we talk about, the president listens very intently, and I believe he takes them very seriously.
During the constitution making,
Yes.
what are some of the most contentious issues behind the scenes? Because you are in Naivasha. I'm sure there are many issues that came up. What is top of your mind? What were some of the most contentious debates that you had?
I think one of the most critical areas was actually devolution. All right? Devolution was a very, very thorny issue. Because at that time, the debate was, do you have fewer units, maybe 14 or 11 counties, okay? And this became a very hot potato, extremely hot. In fact, it nearly collapsed the constitutional debate. So that is how then eventually the team that was in Naivasha said that in order to break the deadlock, let's go by the districts that had been gazetted officially as at 1992. And that is how the 47 counties came into being, because those were the districts that had been gazetted as at 1992. 92. Now, you will remember after that, even constituencies were becoming districts. So that would not have worked. So that was one thing. The other thing that, and why do I say this nearly broke the stalemate? Because there was also the question, are you going for a pure parliamentary system or a presidential system? The proponents of the parliamentary system, and this was largely from the angle of NASA then, before then it was not exactly NASA, but we were then pushing, as ODM, we were pushing at that time for a parliamentary system plus devolution. The PNU side said you cannot have both. It's either the presidential system and the devolution, but not the other. And this debate became very hot. So these two issues were very, very contentious at that time. So eventually, that is how we settled on the 47.
Okay. And as we close on this, what do you see as the way forward now for this country, Kenya? As we're heading into 2022, there's the clamor now for amending the constitution. There's the parts that you say have not been implemented yet.
Trevor, I'll bring you back to the same thing. Can we sort out the economy?
And how best would we do that?
That's absolutely it. How best do we sort it out? Let us have a government that is going to focus on dealing with the economy, proper prioritization of our programs, fidelity to the Constitution, create an environment that stamps out corruption and allows the farmer and other people to have proper opportunities and to move on. Have a government that is going to deal with a massive public debt. This financial year alone, our public debt is at 1 trillion. To be precise, 906 billion. But I can tell you it has already hit 1 trillion. Do you know why? Because as Honorable Yatani, the Minister for Treasury, was working on the budget, he gave us a budget as when the exchange rate to the dollar was at 103 in June when he was reading the budget. The dollar has shifted, the shilling has shifted or slid to 108 shillings to the dollar. So already the public debt has just ballooned within a space of 1.5 months. His target is 1.6 from KRA. He's telling you he has already failed to meet his KRA target by around 160 billion or thereabouts by end of June in the last financial year. So he didn't meet that. And the consolidated fund means that upende usipende. Ni lazima ulipe madeni. So if your collection, projected collection is 1.6, and 1 trillion of it is already going to debt, how much are you being left with? And that is why when he gives the 3 trillion budget, you ask yourself, how does he intend to finance this budget? Because then that means the rest of it is continued borrowing.
So you sink deeper in debt.
You sink deeper in debt.
Okay. All right.
So that to me, if frankly speaking, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that anybody who wants to be a leader in this country does not see that the economy is the crisis. I'm actually baffled. If there's anybody out there who wants to be a leader of Kenya and does not know that the economy is the crisis, my friend, I don't know what your priorities are. I would really want to know what the priorities of that person are.